Alright guys, we're in my small little workshop space here in the basement in my workbench where I do cap kits and things, and I've determined that one of the things that would make my life easier would be to have a test bench. A place to, test the monitors I cap and test game boards to make sure they're working before they go in. I don't know a whole lot about working on the game boards, but I figured this is a good way to start. So let's go ahead and see if we can set up this tripod and kind of come up with a plan as far as things we're gonna need and all that stuff to kind of get going here. I know I'm gonna need a few things for this. I'm going to need a power supply. I'm also going to need an isolation transformer for the monitors. You're not supposed to run those with 120 volts or 110 volts coming out straight from the wall. It needs to go through an isolation transformer first. Definitely going to need an on-off switch. I'm also going to need, let's see, for the power supply, the isolation transformer, an on-off switch. We're going to need a harness. So let's just go with a standard JAMA harness and maybe pick up some adapters along the way. See, anything else we're going to need? Oh, we're going to need some buttons. Maybe an on-off button. We got the on-off button. Coin-up buttons just to make sure things actually go. So some miscellaneous buttons. And I think that might do it. Oh, we're going to need a way. Oh, we've got the isolation transformer for our monitor. We're also going to need maybe a video converter at some point down the way. If I decide to use like a flat panel monitor, so we'll put a a video converter here. Maybe that'll happen later. All right, so we've got a list of things we need. So I figure the way this is going to work is, we'll be able to plug it into the wall. So there's our wall plug there, and then it's going to it's going to come in. Alright, so it's going to come in out of there. It looks like a weird nose out of an elephant. And we're going to need our on-off switch. And then this is going to go to, we're also going to need our isolation transformer. I'm not sure the order this will actually go in. I'll have to take a look. And it's going to need our power supply. And we will need our JAMA harness coming out of this. And maybe some miscellaneous buttons for there. And, video cable. This will have the video cable as well. So we'll put a monitor down here. So that'll get power. That'll be AC. And then we'll have a video signal coming in here as well. So here's our PCB. Well, that's right. We'll need a test PCB. We'll need something for testing monitors. We're going to need a blank, a spare board to test things with. So this is our PCB. So that'll come in here. And for power. And then we'll go to there as well for the video signal. I think that'll probably be good to get us started. At least we've got a plan somewhere here to kind of get things going. I know this is not the best schematic in the world, but not an electrical engineer, just an amateur hobbyist. Okay, I think that'll be a good place to get started. I've got a spare Outrun cabinet in the garage. I think we can harvest some parts from there, such as the isolation transformer. There might be a power supply in there, I'm not sure. But if not, I can probably scrounge up one. And I should have a spare JAMA harness somewhere in there as well. Something I can use to, and the spare PCB to test. So I think this is what we're going to do to get started. I'm going to go hunt for the isolation transformer and the power supply, and we'll take a look and see what I got for spare boards. But I think this will kind of, we'll get the isolation transformer, we'll go take care of that for, the first part of this Make Your Own Test Bench video. And And if we do put a video converter in, we'll put the video converter in over here somewhere to go to an LCD if we need to. That's one of the options. So I hope that makes sense, and we'll go from there. Alright, there's not much left of this parts cabinet here for the Sega Outrun. I've got a few things left on it, but most of the stuff now has gone to other Sega Outrun machines. So one thing I think I might try to do is, I've got all this stuff left down here at the bottom of the cabinet, particularly that isolation transformer. I think what I'm going to try to do is make myself a test bench to test boards on. I picked up a spare monitor. I don't even know if it works, but I should be able to use this and hopefully put together a small test bench with this isolation transformer, which is that big block right there, and go from there. Maybe I'll pick up a power supply and let's see if we can actually build ourselves a little test bench. We'll make it JAMA to make things easier. Alright guys, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull this out. Actually, I already did a bunch of it. There are 4 screws holding this board down at the bottom of the cabinet. So there's 1, 2, another one in the back here behind this wire. So 3 and 4. Once you undo those, this whole thing is loose and you can pick that up and move it out. I am going to try to take some of these wires here with it. They're zip tied to the side of the cabinet just to make my life easier. Like I've got the wire here for the power, so that's already got a connector on there that I should be able to use with other monitors, hopefully. I can save that power switch, and I'll see where the AC comes in, and we'll go from there and cut that and see if we can save that too. And everything else, see, all this other wiring here is just for the control panel. I think I've already pulled out most of the key stuff for the Sega Outrun harness, but we'll see what we can save and see if anybody else needs some of those parts. But there you go, this is what we're going to pull out and use to hopefully make a test bench. Alright guys, here is all the power equipment stuff from the bottom of that spare Sega Outrun cabinet. It's missing the power supply for the game board, but we've got everything else we need at the moment. We've got the big thing being this heavy isolation transformer right here. This is what we need for our monitor. It also has the power switch that was attached to the games. We just pulled that with it. It's got a fuse block here and an AC line filter and some capacitors that were a part of the original setup for the Sega Outrun, and transistors that I don't need. Over here, these are the lines that were going to the power supply that was there originally, as well as the field ground over here. And this connector here, this is what was going to the arcade monitor. So what we'll do in the next part is we'll test this to make sure that this is getting the proper voltage before we actually hook up an arcade monitor to it. But this should be good enough to get me started on making a test bench. On the next part, we'll go ahead and we'll start taking off all these extra parts that I don't need, and kind of cleaning it up and making sure that we've got what we need, maybe finding a power supply to put on it. I've got somewhere that we can scrounge up and make this work. And then we need to figure out what we're going to use for a board and monitor and all this other fun stuff. But we'll continue all that in the next part and go from there. Alright guys, thanks a lot, and I'll keep you updated on the next part of this arcade test bench.